Good morning, welcome back. Today we have the free Fuji fix-up. That's the project I've been working on for a couple weeks now. It actually took a little bit longer than I thought. Some time constraints with life, but mostly just going through this. It was quite a project, but it came out fantastic. It's a very nice riding bike. So let's dive in. So here we have the finished project. This is the Fuji League. It's a chromoly. Fuji calls it their Helios tubing. This is probably from I don't know, early 2000s, mid 2005, 2000 something, I don't know. You can tell there's like a advertisement for the fujibikes.com website. So obviously it's in the internet era, but sort of a weird spot that this occupies. It came with downtube shifters, which is old school. For a bike that's this new, it's sort of odd that Fuji was still making those available. Kind of cool. I'm a big Fuji guy. I have my good old-fashioned road bike is a Fuji. I've got a single-speed Fuji. I like Fuji. Good value. Sort of like a modern Univega. I am a huge Univega fan too. No such thing as bad Univega, but I digress. So here we have the Fuji League. It was free. Facebook Marketplace. Guy was getting rid of it with a couple other pieces of junk. I messaged him. And he said, well, someone else said they were going to be coming, but that was hours ago. Because if you can come and get it before they do, go nuts. So it was right in Worcester. So I hopped in the car, went up, grabbed it. It was kind of funny. Like, he must have been watching out the window. So as soon as I threw it in the car, he messaged me, thanks for taking this off my hands. Okay. It was maybe a hint of things to come. So the first thing I noticed when I got it back was that the seat post was, I wouldn't say totally seized. I could get it to move with my good old-fashioned pipe wrench. You can see these little teeth marks on here. But I couldn't get it to go up, so I ended up taking everything off. So I don't have a real teardown video because it was just kind of quick and sweaty and gross. I just wanted to see if the seat post didn't move. If I couldn't get it out, then I would have put it out for free in my front yard. It would have been pass it around. But I was able to put it upside down in the vise, and with a little bit of leverage, being careful. I put a towel over the top tube with a pry bar. Just kind of gave it that little bit of force upwards, and while twisting, a little PB blaster, and it came out. And you know what? I'm reusing it. I think some people are like, oh my God, this is no good anymore. But I don't know. I cleaned it off and it fits right back in. So 27.2, which is very common seat post size. So I would have been okay anyways. But yeah, I needed to get a new seat post clamp. The two things that I bought for this project were the seat post clamp and the front derailleur clamp. But we'll get into that eventually. The other thing that was kind of crazy, I'll show you, is this rear wheel was like half the braking surface was like gone on one side, obviously, rendering this rim junk. And then on the rear brake, there was a pad missing. So that was kind of strange. So I don't know if someone rode it with just one pad on the back and that's what happened, or sometimes things get they fall off a bike rack and they get kind of shaved off, but I don't think that's what happened. That would be sort of weird, and there'd be other damage on the bike, but I don't know. So that was the first mystery. Okay. So I tore it down. I was happy to get that seat post out because then that means the project, it's a 56. And then now we can talk for a minute about the sizing situation. Now, I didn't have any intentions of keeping this bike, which I've said many, many times, but it's a 56. I'm pretty much a 58. I'm almost 6 feet tall. I think by the book, I'm a 58. But the problem I always have is with reach, especially these old bikes. They're long top tubes. Sort of that traditional race geometry, hunched over, leaned over on the bike. And I don't know, I'm just kind of old, and it's not comfortable. It's not like modern, modern bikes like my other dedicated Fuji. It's like you got the sloping top tube. It's like way higher. Like the stack is way higher, so you're up more. You're a more comfortable position. You're not sitting up like a cruiser, but like you're up more. So it's like tough to get around with a 56 in an old bike. But I don't know. After riding it, like, I mean, a more upright stem, I don't know. But then you're constantly sort of like processing, how can I make this fit me? When essentially deep in your heart that you just need a bigger bike, a 58. I had an old Centurion Ironman that was a 56, and I just could not get comfortable on that thing. It was a lovely bike, Tange 1 tubing. It was light, very, very whippy little frame. I really like that bike, but it was just couldn't get it comfortable. And like if you have to try really hard to get the bike comfortable for you, then it's probably not for you. But this one kind of falls in the middle, really. After riding it, I had a really nice ride with it yesterday. So we'll see what happens with that. Stay tuned. I tell myself like, well, if another one popped up in a 58, I would just get it and I would swap all these parts and then, whatever. And then, I don't know, I have a ton of bikes. I got rid of a ton of bikes this spring, but then they're kind of creeping back. This is the first of 4 bikes that I've found, either for free or found by the side of the road in the past couple of weeks. Sort of strange that I would come across that many bikes in such a short amount of time, but I did. Stay tuned. I found that Bridgestone in the recycling. I also found a Trek hybrid and a Trek small mountain bike. No bikes that I want to keep. Nothing that's really my size again, but truly not my size, those other bikes. But I don't know. Could be projects. Could be just stuff to tinker around with. Maybe take me into the winter. Who knows? So there's that. There's the backstory. But now let's talk about the actual build, which was a little more interesting, a little less straightforward, I guess. Sometimes the parts you have sort of drive the bus, or you kind of like, sometimes it's the frame that you really are interested in and you want to build something around. Other times it's a specific part that you have. You're like, oh, this is a really nice crank. I'd really like to build around this, build a bike with it. But this was kind of like, I don't know. I just wanted to like get it stabilized after it was, in pieces by the side of the road. It came with the triple. It came 3x8 with the down tube shifters again. Very strange. And now when you're thinking about like, okay, I'm not going to keep this bike. I ride bikes with down tube shifters just fine. I don't have a problem with it. I like it. It's old school. It's easy. They work well. They're sort of time tested, especially like the more modern-y ones, the Shimano ones. They just work perfectly. They're very nice. Bar end shifters are nice. I have on my touring bike. So it was 3x8. It was sort of a no-name crank with steel chain rings, very heavy. That's the other thing about this bike I wanted to talk about a little bit, is that it's not heavy. Again, as with my past couple builds, I don't really weigh the bikes too much, but I would definitely not call this heavy. I'm not sure if this was the highest. I don't know. It says Ilios 1, and now like when bike companies talk about things, it's either like golf or baseball. It's either the higher the number, the better of whatever model they have, or tubing or whatever, or the lower is the better. Like Tange 1 is better than Tange 2. This is Ilios 1. I don't know if Ilios 2 was better, or if they even had an Ilios 2. I don't know. Ilios 3, who knows? I haven't done a ton of research on it. But not a heavy bike. Not a heavy bike at all. And it's kind of nice. It gives you optimism for the build. That's not, you're not going to build some boat anchor. But a triple with steel chain rings, like that's heavy. You took that thing off and it was like, whoa, this is heavy. So my plan was to do a 2x9, go up 1 speed, And I had a set of Shimano Sora 3x9, I should say. My initial plan was 3x9. See, I'm already getting confused. My initial plan was, okay, 3x9 Shimano Sora shifter brake combos. Because you're thinking about like resale, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna sell it to somebody. Are they gonna use those down tube shifters? They're gonna get freaked out. They'll be like, oh my god, I'm gonna get my hand caught in the wheel. Like people don't want to generally, like a casual rider who's like, I just need a bike. Like they're not gonna want those old down tube shifters. It's gonna freak them out. They have to take my hand off the handlebar. Oh my god, I'll lose my balance. When in actuality, it's not that bad. But I'm just thinking of like, resale essentially. So I figured that the Shimano 3x9 gives you a nice modern sort of range. I had a really nice 28 tooth, almost new cassette back here, 9-speed. Again, like, so sometimes the parts you have are kind of like determining the build. Okay, I've got the 3x9 rifters, which is sort of rare. Not a lot of, not rare, but you don't see a lot of triples. Usually it's doubles. It's like 2x9, 2x10, 2x8, whatever. Road bike is, you got these compact 50-34 up front. This was sort of like a 52, 42, 28 or something. I like the idea of having the triple with the low gear. So you have the nice shifters up front and brakes, and then you have a nice low gear with the drivetrain. That seemed like it made sense to me. Now the problem was I had so much trouble getting the triple to work. I couldn't get, I switched out the chain rings to aluminum chain rings. I don't know if there was slightly different spacing. I tried to keep everything. There was spacers on the small ring. I don't know. I couldn't get it to work. I tried and I tried and I tried. The shifters were weird. The triple, like there was too much trim involved. It was like 4 swipes and like, I don't know. It wasn't working. I actually swapped it out at one point. I just started going crazy. And I had a newer Shimano 105 9-speed 3x9 crankset with like an Octolink bottom bracket and all that jazz. Swapped that out with a different derailleur. Couldn't get that to work either. It wasn't quite right. I got that closer, but it wasn't quite right. That's when I got the derailleur clamp, because then I had like more options with front derailleurs. So I don't know. You get burned out a little bit. You're like, I can make it work, but like if I'm gonna sell this bike to somebody or give it to somebody or whatever, have someone else ride it, I don't want, there shouldn't be like special instructions. They should just be able to use it as it's intended to be used. I think people get a little freaked out by triples anyways. I don't know. That's one thing like that I've found, is that people, even though like shifting has been around for decades and decades with bicycles, some people just find it difficult to learn, more casual riders, they're not riding all the time. They don't teach themselves how to, get those optimal gear ranges, like you should be in the smaller cogs in the back if you're in the big chain ring in the front, and they do the opposite, that kind of thing. So anyways, I finally just like gave up and went with a 2x9 Shimano Dior, and I had switched at some point. I had Shimano Dior rear derailleur, switched to a Shimano 600 for the double, at least. That didn't seem to jazz too much. I don't know, maybe it was because of the 9-speed situation. It did shift, but I don't know, it needed way too much tension. It was weird. So that'll go on another build anyways, but nice little derailleur, but very short cage. This is a long cage Shimano Dior that I originally intended to go with the triple, but it works very well with the double. So I dug an old Shimano X-Age double crankset out of the bins, which is kind of nice. People don't highly regard the X-Age stuff from the 80s or early 90s, but without the steel, again, that had 2 steel chain rings on it, Biopace or whatever. Without those, it was just fine. Nice and light with some nice light chain rings on here. We got a 52, 42, and then we still have this 9-speed in the back. So your lowest gear is 42.28, which is that's more traditional road bike kind of thing. But I got to work really well. And even with the triple, that's a little tip for you. The Shimano triple drifters will most definitely shift a double, no problem. It's almost better. It works so well. You just got to make sure you're really careful with the limit screw because you have all those extra clicks. But it works like it was meant to be. It's really nice. The wheels are so once I got that settled, I could get going with the rest of the build. The front wheel that came with the bike was in okay shape. The black spokes though were kind of worn off. Like, I don't know, it was like paint or anodizing or something had worn off. So I did a quick rattle can. I had some black spray paint in the garage. I taped up everything and painted the spokes. And they look nice. I think I'm going to try to get those stickers off, the Alex rim stickers, just to match, because this rear rim, which is a Xero, Xero, it was a random orphan wheel that I had. I had it on a trainer at one point. It's very light, but the key was that it had the Shimano 8910 free hub that could take that 9-speed in the back, and it was very nice. So one little surprise was when I was putting everything back together, like I think maybe because the frame had been, the wheel hadn't been in the frame for a while, the arm, like the stays had like spread way out. It was like 140 something. I don't know. It was crazy. It should be 130. Road bike is 130 spacing. So I don't have real video of this, but then you have to take the frame, cold setting, use a 2x4 or a piece of wood, and I got those stays back in to where they're supposed to be, and then I used string to measure on each side of the seat post to make sure everything was centered, which it was. It worked out, but then the rear derailleur hanger, I had to really that was way off. Don't ever believe your eyes on that. A lot of times you're looking like, oh, it looks straight, looks like I'm good to go, but when you actually put like I have my wheel as my derailleur or alignment gauge, my extra wheel, it was way off. It was like really way off. So I had to fix that. And you know what? Like, looking back, maybe that was part of my problem with the shifting in the back with the 600, that it wasn't aligned. Maybe that's why it was jumping gears or needed more tension or something. I don't know. But that's water under the bridge. I'm not going back. So clipless pedals, because I've kind of run out of flat pedals for builds. I have some that I need to work on that but pedals are hard because it's like almost not worth it to like take them all apart, get those little bearings go everywhere. They're hard to adjust. The brakes came back together nice. The cockpit, I had a longer stem on there originally. I figured, it's a 56, I can get away with a longer stem, but it was way too long. It was a Sakai. It was 90 degrees, which I liked, because if it's 90 degrees and the head tube is slightly back, then you get some rise. But that didn't work. It was way too long. It was way too reachy. And then I found a shorter stem. It's not 90 degrees. It's got a negative rise there, but it's okay. We'll see on that. But I cleaned up the frame, washed it. I applied Frame Saver, not Frame Saver. I think Frame Saver is another brand. It's called Fluid Film. I got it at the hardware store years ago. It's lasted me years. It's for the interior tubes. When you have the bike all apart, you might as well do it with a steel bike. You go into the little rack mount hole here, or seat post, just spray away. And it's kind of cool. It's made from lanolin, which is like wool, like oil from sheep's wool, so it smells like a farm when you're doing it, which is kind of cool. I don't know, I love the smell of farms, which is sort of strange, because I don't know, I think not everybody loves the smell of farms, but who knows. So there's that. I had these little shifter bosses put on there. Luckily, I had two that matched kind of. The wheels went back together nice. Got all the fresh grease in there. Headset I had to steal from the bottom headset. The bottom of the headset was very rusty and gross, and it had sort of damaged the race. So I took the entire headset, it's a nice Tange headset, off of an old Trek frame that I have. That's going to be in the bin. It's got those bonded down tube shifters that I've bonded them with stuff, epoxy, several times and gave up. It's way too big for me anyways. But I used the orange tape from the Mongoose that I took apart a couple weeks ago. Random specialized seat. It actually feels okay. Tires are 28 millimeters, a little beefy. I wouldn't go. I'd say maybe you could get a 30 in here, but that'd be questionable with like climbing. You might see some flex, some rub. But the 28s are nice. It's a nice sweet spot for a road bike. They're a little worn. They're from I don't know. I think when I got new tires for the Fuji, I took these off of that. But so be on the lookout for flats with older tires. But at least they kind of like proof of concept the build a little bit. So yeah, I got everything working right. It's a little bit of a taller gear, a little bit of an old school 5242, young legs kind of thing. But as we'll talk about in the ride review, I don't know. I was feeling it. So I took it for a ride yesterday, and it was wonderful. Surprisingly good. I had lower expectations for how much I would like it. It felt great, that whole steel is real thing, it's a little more absorbent with bumps, a little more compliant. But at the same time, I felt like it was kind of a good climber. Like, I don't know, I went up some hills. I felt like it was a good climber, which is tough. Like, we got a 42-28 gear in the back, which is like, that's not crazy low. But, I felt like I was scooting up hills. I felt like I was, I don't know, like it was fun getting out of the saddle. It felt fast. It felt light. It was really nice. Didn't really have to, I had to tighten the front brake caliper. You always bring a couple tools when you're going on a shakedown ride. I brought a 4 millimeter for the seat post, a 5 millimeter for if I had to do any caliper work or derailleur adjustments, and a 6 millimeter for either a seat adjustment or stem straightening. But I didn't really have to do anything. I did tighten the seat post collar after a little while, just out of good measure. Tighten the front caliper a little bit, but other than that, it was perfect. Shifted perfect. Didn't have to really adjust anything. I went for a ride. I kind of was like, like I was ready to come home. I was en route to come back, and I kind of took another way just to get a couple more miles out of it. It was that fun. So I was surprised. It came together nice. And I think about like next steps, and I think, I probably not going to keep this bike. It's probably too small, being that 56 again. But I think you can see my gears going right now. Like, you're probably thinking, yeah, he's keeping it. I don't know. I will say, if I found something like this in a 58, like just a respectable road bike kind of thing, I don't know. I might want one. Something to be said for just a sort of like working man's or woman's steel road bike. So had a wonderful ride. Came back with a little bit of uncertainty whether I was gonna, whether I could realistically convince myself to get rid of this thing. But I think what I'm going to do is ride it some more. As with the Nishiki Meridian, I kind of feel like there's a 1x9 maybe option in the future. Get a wide range 9-speed back here, like a 38 40 tooth or something, and just like a it's it's kind of hard. This is a 130 bolt circle diameter crank. There's usually one of two. It's usually 110, which is like a lot of old mountain bikes, a lot of modern road bikes, 110. And 130 is like mostly like old road bike, BCD. That's how you choose your chain rings. It's the distance between the bolts as they make a circle. It's hard to find 130 ones, but maybe like a 40, get like a 40 tooth 130 BCD, 1x narrow wide chain ring, and like a 40 tooth back here. Again, or maybe if I find another frame, a bigger frame, that's what I do with that one. I had briefly considered a flat bar conversion for this, but you do have to be careful with road bikes. The front shifter is tough, not always compatible with road bikes. You have to get like a road bike front shifter, and those are expensive. You can get like Shimano has them for like Tiagra, Sora, that kind of thing. You can get like, you know, road bike shifters. It's a different pull or whatever ratio, I don't know, whatever they call it. But yeah, I was really happy with how this turned out. Took a while, and you know, aesthetically, this thing has chips and scrapes all over it. You know, as with previous builds I've talked about, I don't really care about that stuff so much. I'm not a perfectionist with that. I feel like touch up usually makes things look blobby and weird anyways, calls attention to it. So I don't know, but you sort of stop the bleeding. You know, I got the fluid film in there. I did some polish and wax on this, so it's protected for a while. Everything was straight. It could ride no hands for a while. That's a good test when you're riding a bike, is go no hands. If the bike really lifts to one side or another, then like you might have some frame alignment issues. But which I was a little suspect that all that jamming around I did back here to get it back down to 130, that was gonna be an issue, but it wasn't. It was straight as an arrow. Really nice bike. So we'll see. I'm gonna ride it for a little while. It'll be in the fleet. Do think I'm gonna. I don't think I'm gonna keep it. I don't know. I'm always in this process of convincing myself that a bike fits me in X or Y way. But just get a bike that fits you. There's a million of them out there. You know, 58 will come along, I'm sure. So, thanks for watching. I'm glad I'm getting a few subscribers here and there. Still nothing crazy. It's still very small, but I do like doing this, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. So that'll do it.